So Matt LaFleur is finishing up his press conference the day after the loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we just got our official update on Joe Barry and if he is staying or if he's being fired, and you're not going to like the answer. I think we can all agree that heading in today, everyone thinks Packers defensive coordinator Joe Barry should be fired. After the Tampa Bay Buccaneers came into Lambeau, Baker Mayfield had a perfect quarterback rating, the first quarterback to ever do so, opposing quarterback in Lambeau, put up 34 points, and the same issues keep happening on this defense. We see soft zone, we see miscommunication, we see this defense not playing up to their potential with how many first-round picks we have on that team. Even going back to the hire, looking at Joe Barry's resume with the 0-16 Lions, some bad teams in Washington, it didn't really make much sense then, and it definitely doesn't make much sense now. And with 3 games remaining, the Packers still technically fighting for a playoff spot, but for a lot of people, that ship has sailed. A lot of people want change on the defense. A lot of people want new blood on that defense, myself included. And today we just got the answer that none of us wanted to hear, that Joe Barry is staying as defensive coordinator, at least for the remainder of the season. Now, this doesn't mean that he's not going to be fired after the season. It simply means the Packers are going to do what they always do and keep certain coaches, no matter how bad it is, throughout the entire season, no matter what. The only time they switched up from this was when they did fire Mike McCarthy. And I think this relays back on Matt LaFleur just as much. It's being complacent. It's not holding certain coaches accountable. And every coach at that point has job security throughout the entire season, which shouldn't be the case when you're a 6-8 football team fighting for a playoff spot and the same things keep happening to your defense that's losing you football games. Matt LaFleur said Joe Barry will remain the defensive coordinator and play caller for the rest of the season. Quote, "Yeah, that is the plan. If I thought that was the best solution today, then we'd make that decision." And that's part of the problem. How would that not be the best solution? And I understand the opposite argument. Okay, then who becomes defensive coordinator, interim defensive coordinator for the rest of the year? Do you want to do that with only 3 games left? Would it be Jerry Montgomery? I'm not really sure. But at the end of the day, if you're going to move on from them anyways, at the end of the season, which at this point, if they don't, it's just laughable. It's absurd. You want to start to build a new culture and get some of these defensive guys back into the mentality of playing defense the way they want to play. Matt LaFleur then commented on this poor defensive performance throughout the entire year, especially yesterday. Matt LaFleur says lining players up starts with coaching. Asked why not fire Barry when that didn't happen. Quote, "Because I've seen us execute this stuff before. It's unfortunate it happened at this time of the year in such an important game, but I've seen us execute it earlier in the year." But it's not earlier in the year. We're talking week 15, a must-win game where the playoffs essentially start for your team in order to make the playoffs. A game against a 6-7 team at that time as well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a very winnable game in your home stadium, and you let them pass all over you all day, run all over you all day. You make them look like the 2013 Denver Broncos out there. So to me, it doesn't really matter that it happened before. It speaks more volume that it's still happening in year 3 of a defensive coordinator in week 15 in such an important game. Same thing showed up every time I watched it, LaFleur says. It's basic concepts, day 1 install, and we have self-inflicted communication errors. That's tough to watch. If it's tough to watch, that's clearly a coaching issue. Then why does the coach still remain? If players aren't correctly communicating with each other well, or the call isn't being broadcasted to these players well, that directly falls back to coaching. It's absolutely ridiculous that Matt LaFleur in one hand can say, if we thought that was the best idea, then we'd do that, but then flip around and say this, where it's, self-inflicted communication issues that is the problem with this defense, and that it's tough to watch. Well, if it's tough to watch, then fix it. LaFleur then wrapped things up on the defensive side of his press conference, saying he'll take a bigger role on defense to help get the communication squared away. If you don't have all 11 on the same page, it takes one guy, and then everything goes to crap after that, and you get exposed. So if he wants to take a bigger role to help the communication get squared away, what is the point of a defensive coordinator then? That is literally his job. So if you have to take a bigger role to do that, then why the hell do you even have Joe Barry in the building if you're going to be the one having to do it anyways? Why even still have him there? It's just the complacency that just annoys me. And I understand firing Joe Barry right now isn't going to make some magical switch where the Packers defense is then top 10 for the remainder of 3 weeks and we go into the playoffs hot and make a Super Bowl run. We're not even saying that. But for the sake of the Green Bay Packers, for the sake of the culture that this G on the helmet stands for, you got to get rid of Joe Barry, man. This is just embarrassing, not only for us fans, but for around the league watching this happen, watching this unfold for the Green Bay defense. I mean, we have teams that are 10-3 demoting their defensive coordinator because they're not happy with their results. And they're 10-3. That's the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's still crazy that you're sitting at 6-8 after 2 losses to the New York Giants, who just scored 6 points in a loss, and then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who you make Baker Mayfield look like prime Tom Brady. It's just ridiculous. And then not to mention the whole Matt LaFleur taking a bigger role on defense, potentially hurting the development of young offensive talent that we've seen raise so much throughout the season this year. I mean, that is literally the defensive coordinator's job. He's clearly not doing it correctly if you have to step in to take a bigger role. Oh, man, I'm just tired of it. I feel like, we just keep going through the same, thing. A horrible defensive coordinator. And honestly, this makes Mike Pett not look that bad. It even makes Dom Capers not look that bad because this is definitely worse than the both of them, in my opinion. At least with Dom Capers, we won a Super Bowl, and Mike Pett, we had some pretty good seasons where you saw the potential of defense. But like the last 3 years, the Packers have been below 20th overall DVOA on defense, and the last year was, I think, 20th. That was Joe Barry's best defense of his career as a defensive coordinator. He's had some of the worst defenses in his career. I just don't understand it, man. But that about does it for this video. Just wanted to quickly update you guys on the official update on Joe Barry and that he is going to be staying for the rest of the season. Now, if Bryce Young comes out and throws 6 touchdown passes, maybe they fire him. But at that point, are we even expecting that to happen, for them to even fire him, even if that does happen? I don't even know at this point. But I appreciate you guys coming by. I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack, go.